Next on Max TV, we take a look at Firepower. Pacquiao battles Cotto, and we take a look at the rematch between Chad Dawson and Glenn Johnson. Coming up on the next round. And welcome to the next round, brought to you by Everlast. Gabriel Montoya, Steve Kim, talking boxing, and folks, the week is here. It is indeed time for Firepower at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas for the WBO welterweight title of the world. Miguel Cotto defends against the Pac-Man, Manny Pacquiao. Taking a look at this pay-per-view undercard for the WBA junior middleweight title, Daniel Santos takes on Yuri Foreman. Then a middleweight attraction, Julio Cesar Chavez takes on Troy Rowland. In welterweight action, kicking things off, Alfonso Gomez takes on Jesus Soto Karass. Let's go back up top. Cotto Pacquiao. It's interesting to me that Miguel Cotto, despite all his accomplishments, being the much stronger, bigger, natural man, you are in the minority if you are picking Miguel Cotto.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. I mean, this is the guy that's been fighting all the tough fighters. He just fought Josh Clottey. He's got Shane Mosley under his belt, Zab Judah. His resume speaks for itself. And yet he's a 2-to-1, I think he's minus 240 underdog right now. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, to me, the guys that Manny Pacquiao's been fighting have been somewhat tailor-made for him. And David Diaz, Oscar De La Hoya, and Ricky Hatton, whether it was style-wise or where they were at in their careers. Whereas Miguel Cotto, he fights guys right in their prime. And yeah, they're tough, close fights, and he looks vulnerable, but that's what happens when you go to the top level. I think he should be getting a lot more respect than he is.
That's the question about Manny Pacquiao. We know he's great, but the question is, are we overvaluing victories? Forget David Diaz. That was expected. Oscar De La Hoya was badly faded. Ricky Hatton was badly faded. So the question is, at this point, how badly faded is Miguel Cotto? Listen, there are a lot of questions about the gloves and the hand wraps of Antonio Margarito last July 26th. Those questions are absolutely legitimate and they are valid. However, regardless of what those answers are, guess what? You can't undo the punishment. And when he fought Joshua Clottey, and I was there live at the Madison Square Garden back in June, I saw a guy that was taken to the brink, that was on the ledge, but Joshua Clottey was Joshua Clottey. Instead of shoving the guy off the cliff, he kind of tapped him on the shoulder and hoped for a decision. And you know what? In front of 19,000 Puerto Ricans on that particular weekend at Madison Square Garden, he did just enough to not get the decision. The question is, what happens when Miguel Cotto is taken to that stage once again? The one thing we know about Pacquiao, he doesn't just knock on the door, he comes through like an LAPD batter ram.
Yeah, he does. If he hurts Cotto at all early, he's going to jump all over him. And I think that's a big question, is can he hurt Miguel Cotto? I mean, he looks in the gym, we've both seen him sparring, like he's hitting hard as ever. The tempo is there, and to me that's a big thing here is tempo. Miguel likes a kind of slow, even keel pace. He likes to beat you to the body, pick his shots, whereas Manny is a whirling dervish. He's going to come out there and throw everything but the kitchen sink. He wants an up-tempo fight, and he kind of runs you over until you're done. And I'm curious to see how, which guy is going to win out. I mean, Miguel Cotto, forget that, even just that he's a more prime fighter, that he's a younger fighter and more of a natural welterweight than Manny. He's also one of those complete fighters that Manny Pacquiao has fought in a long time. He can counterpunch, he can come forward, he can fight out of the southpaw stance, or he can fight out of the orthodox stance. He's also a guy that can take an incredible beating. I mean, this is as tough an opponent as Manny Pacquiao has ever faced.
Here's the thing about Manny Pacquiao from a technical level. I think one thing he does defensively he's got to watch out for. The chin has got to be tucked, especially when he comes out of an exchange and he cannot back up straight. But I think there are some holes in Miguel Cotto. I think while he's technically sound, he's not perfect. I think he's a little bit squared up. Also, the elbows are flared up, and he gives you the 5-hole. Uppercuts have been effective. Also, while he throws a very good left hook, the one thing that I've always seen about Miguel Cotto, kind of like a Trinidad, he's what I call a heavy stepper. He will step to his left side and give away the left hook. It's not what I'd call a hidden left hook.
Yeah.
So he telegraphs it a little bit. And I think there's one punch that's going to combat that in a counter mode, the right hook of Manny Pacquiao, which I believe is as strong as his left hand. I actually believe that Manny Pacquiao is a better two-handed fighter than Miguel Cotto currently. Wow. The Manny Pacquiao of 2004, 5, 6, 7, and even 8 is not the fighter that he is today. Not only is he now athletic and strong and explosive, I think he's got a much higher boxing IQ. And another factor that I think weighs in the favor of the Pac-Man, not only hand speed or quickness, foot speed. I think if he moves around the ring and uses certain lateral movement into the right hand, because I've never really been a big fan of Miguel Cotto's right hand. He's a natural southpaw. Yeah. He's a little bit like De La Hoya. He's front side heavy in terms of his artillery. Yeah. I think that is going to be a factor. And another thing, look at it, Gabe. His history against southpaws, DeMarcus Corley and Zab Judah, had a lot of success with a lot of the things Manny Pacquiao likes to do. Left hands up the middle and right hooks. I'm telling you right now, I have Pac-Man fever. I think he wins this fight.
He's also got hit a lot by the uppercut of Zab
Yes.
Judah. You know, he's wide open for it. You know, that's the thing with Miguel Cotto. He's versatile, but he's not unpredictable. You know, he's kind of a plodding guy no matter what stance or tactic he tries to take. And I think I'm starting to lean with you on this one. Manny just seems to be that special athlete right now. And I think there's going to be sort of an evening out. I mean, Manny is looking like a great boxer against De La Hoya, against, you know, David Diaz and Ricky Hatton. And I think it's going to even out just a little bit because I think the class of Miguel Cotto is going to show. I think the experience is going to show. He's a tougher guy that's probably going to extend the fight. And to me, that's the question, is Manny has blown guys out with little resistance. He's kept his energy all the way, you know, with Oscar until the 8th round and just throwing punches and throwing punches. What's going to happen when things start to come back at him? And is he going to carry that weight and that energy late into the fight, fighting as a welterweight? I'm very curious about that, but I'm going to go.
Boy,
yeah, I'm a little stuck.
You know what? You're doing a little John Kerry.
I am.
You're a little bit flip-flop, and you're a little bit on the fence here. I know you're 50-50. I'll say this right now, though. One of the key factors in terms of how competitive and how this fight will turn, physical strength. Miguel Cotto, I think, is a stronger fighter, but my question is the differential in strength this much or this much? If it's not that much, I think it is a huge advantage for Manny Pacquiao because I think he's lighter on his feet, and he also has more explosiveness right now, and I think he accelerates quicker. He could get in and out and do what he wants in terms of lateral movement, getting his shots off, and hitting Miguel Cotto with blind shots. Also, Miguel Cotto is going to have to attack to the body. I think that's going to be a key factor in taking away some of the legs. It's been a long time since Manny Pacquiao has been hurt to the body. I've seen him in the gym let guys wail on him like a piñata with no effect. Those guys weren't Miguel Cotto, but I do think from a ring geography standpoint, this fight, if it's in the center of the ring, I think it is completely Manny Pacquiao's fight. But if it's fought on the perimeter and those ropes are touching the back of Manny Pacquiao, all of a sudden, you got yourself a whole different fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's one thing that Miguel Cotto does better than Manny is maybe cut off the ring, two things, and go to the body. But I think that Manny's going to keep it in the center of the ring. I like his feet. It just seems to me all the intangibles are leaning towards Manny. The speed, the feet, the hand quickness. He's a better two-fisted puncher. I'm going to go with Manny. I'm going to go with Manny by decision.
A late switch there from Gabriel Montoya. And another factor with Miguel Cotto, again, post-Margarita, we have to bring this up, took a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Got busted up, bruised up, bleeding all over the place. Guys like that are never really the same. And once that scar tissue starts to form, you look at Claudia. I know it was a headbutt, but he's a guy that now bruises a lot easier than he did before.
Yeah.
And the one thing about Manny, he may not be Tommy Hearns at 47, but it's like a lot of knives just kind of poking you and slashing you time and time again. And that type of punishment can really accumulate.
Especially because Manny doesn't stick around for the paycheck, you know, or for the receipt. He sits there and he'll hit you 3 times and then he's gone. He'll hit you 2 times and he's gone. And he's really become very content to kind of slowly, you know, it's death by 1,000 knives, like you're saying. You know, he just slowly kind of picks away at you until you're ready to go. And few people know, you know, exactly when you're ready to go, like Manny Pacquiao. I'm going to go late stoppage. I mean, a late, long decision. I'm not going to go late stoppage on this thing. I think the class of Miguel Cotto, the toughness, the experience is going to be enough to carry him through to the final bell.
I think he will knock him out between rounds 8, 9, or 10.
Wow.
I think he will steadily beat him down with the barrage of speed and quickness. I could be wrong. I could be completely off my rocker, but I really believe one guy's going up, and the other guy is certainly plateaued. And we're going to see just how much Miguel Cotto has left in the tank. Taking a look at this undercard, Gabe, I wouldn't normally criticize any undercard for any mega fight. The bottom line is in pay-per-view, the main event sells everything. 98% of the buys are really determined by who is on the marquee. However, a guy that I respect by the name of Robert J. Aram said, "I'm not screwing around. We're putting on a spectacular undercard." Quite frankly, he did not deliver.
No.
You know, Danny Santos against Yorgey Borman. Yes, Yorgey Borman. I don't care if you don't like it. It's going to be a boring fight. Daniel Santos is a guy that got booed in Puerto Rico in a fight. Yorgey Foreman is a guy, I don't want to say he runs around the ring, but he should have a baton in his right glove. Julio Cesar Chavez is turning into the Mexican butterbean. And yes, they keep doing it. They find more and more white guys from the Midwest. I don't really care to see or talk about those fights, but there is one really good fight on the undercard. And folks, excuse the expression, but it's a Mexican bloodbath. Alfonso Gomez against Jesus Soto Karass. Bring it on.
Yeah, it's going to be all action. You know, Soto Karass is a guy, he's like a poor man's Margarito. He's in a come forward. He's got less defense than Margarito does, but he's got a volume attack. He goes to the body. He cuts off the ring well. And best of all, he takes punches to give punches. And then you got Alfonso Gomez, who's pretty much the exact same guy. This is going to be an exciting fight. I'm looking for Soto Karass, who's got less mileage on him. He's a more natural welterweight. He's a bigger guy. Gomez, to me, seems to be a guy on the downslide a little bit.
Whoa, you know what? I completely disagree.
Wow.
I completely disagree. You are wrong. You are absolutely wrong. You should be thrown off the set right now. Alfonso Gomez is going to pull the upset. Yes, I'm calling for the upset special.
Wow.
And yes, Alfonso Gomez could have been a contender, and he's going to be a contender. And I'll tell you why. Alfonso Gomez is in the best shape of his life. I know it's a cliche, but instead of getting drunk and doing what he does for a full 4 weeks, he only did it for 1 week. And I saw him in Hawaii. He's got straighter punches. Soto Karass, in his last fight, I thought he looked awful.
Really?
Defensively, on that fight on TV Azteca where they didn't show soccer, I thought he looked awful. There's always issues of focus with him. He's a big, strong, goofy kid. He's fun-loving. I don't know about his focus, though. I really don't. And I also think Gomez, he wanted this fight. That's a key factor. He kind of talked his manager, Gary Gittleson, who's a little bit reticent, into this fight. He said, you know what, I've been in there with that guy. I'm going to be in the best shape of my life. I actually think Alfonso Gomez is an improving fighter. Do I think he's ever going to be at the elite? Not really. But I do think he's a little bit underrated, and he has a good right hand. He could loop it across the middle. He can come over the top, and he can come straight. And the most important thing is, he got away from his usual natural environment. He's in Oxnard now, working with Robert Garcia. I think the quality sparring was there. I really do believe Alfonso Gomez is going to make a name for himself and open some eyes and prove you wrong, and you're going to owe him a big apology, Gabriel.
Wow. Well, when I'm right, you're going to owe me a big beer.
Yeah, good luck getting that. As for Santos Foreman, this is a track meet, isn't it? Isn't it a game of tag? One guy's going to be chasing, and the other guy's going to be working around the perimeter. I don't think there's any doubt. If you're a betting man, unless there's a clash of heads or something like a meteor falling out of the sky, pound the over.
Yeah, just
we'll go 12.
Yeah, just pile on the money on the over. I mean, one guy's going to do less. One guy's going to do little. One guy's going to do less. It's going to be, a counter puncher versus Yorgey Foreman. I don't think there's anything more that needs to be said.
Chavez Jr., can you take this seriously anymore?
No, not at all. If Soto Karass has lost his focus, did Chavez Jr. ever have it? I mean, the guy is just, he's the Mexican butterbean. What can you say? I mean, he's going to fight Troy Rowland, who's not a fighter of note. He's on his, 41st or 42nd fight. At this point, we should kind of know what we've got, and I guess we do. He's just a guy that's never really going to step up. He's never going to have that marquee fight. And maybe you can match him with like Ronald Hearns or somebody down the road, for some sort of cash-out bout. I don't know. I'm just not interested.
Yeah, neither am I. Well, that's it, though. Big weekend from the MGM Grand. It's firepower. We come back. Round number 2 of the next round, we take a look at Dawson Johnson 2. And we are back. Round number 2 of the next round brought to you by Everlast Steve, Kim, Gabe Montoya, talking boxing. And we look back this past weekend from the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut. It was the rematch, and Chad Dawson makes it 2 for 2 against Glenn Johnson, winning a 12-round decision. Your scored 115-113 twice, and one score of 117-110. Kicking off this broadcast on HBO, beware of Dog. He is back. Alfred Angulo, TKO in 3 in vicious, violent fashion against Harry Joe Yorgey. Here's the thing, Gabe. He was effective. He was dominant to a large degree. He was very skilled. However, he certainly was not exciting. And this is the biggest indictment. For what about what me and you think? People in his home state, and this was about his homecoming, I heard boos. Not good. No.
He was all those things, and he was kind of boring. I mean, I think it was a case, though, for Dawson of, win this one, hopefully look good in the next one. Glenn Johnson, though, where he was at with the style, he was coming forward, kind of more of a brawling style. He looked slow of foot. He looked like Dawson had gotten a little bit smarter and just, I'm going to box the whole time. Johnson got a little bit older in this fight. And Dawson didn't seem like he was ever even thinking about taking advantage of that, of any of his advantages in the fight, being the faster guy, being the younger guy, possibly hitting a little bit harder. He was just really content to kind of keep away and just jab his way to victory.
Yeah, here's the thing about Glenn Johnson, the old battleship. The USSS Johnson, one of my favorite fighters, but he looked 40. He really did. For the first time, I said, you know what? He's having problems catching up with the fastball. He couldn't get into position with his feet, couldn't really pull the trigger. The one thing about Chad Dawson, he's a highly skilled guy. But one of the things, and you go back to this about Manny Pacquiao, the reason why he's so popular, he's exciting. And I like fighters who bring drama to the table. I'm not looking for technical perfection.
Yeah.
I'm looking for guys that bring something to the dance, something to the table, because professional boxing is about putting asses in the seats and entertaining. On that front, I think Chad Dawson failed because I think there's a large segment of fans, even in Connecticut, are saying to themselves, you know what, I saw Vinny Pazienza. This guy was fun. He was limited, but he brought something to the table. Chad Dawson is the type of guy who's going to have to learn, if you don't have a great personality or one that can polarize people like a Floyd Mayweather, if you're going to be boring inside the ring and you're already a beige spot on a beige wall from a personality standpoint, I'm not so sure there's really anything there. And if I'm HBO, I'm not letting him have easy fights. I'm going to match him against tough guys that are really going to extend and push him. I think sooner rather than later. I want to see that fight with the Storm Cloud out of Tallahassee to Voris Cloud.
Oh, I think Cloud beats him. I mean,
What? Really?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think he's a guy that he wants it. I mean, that's the thing. You're talking about entertaining, and I don't think that means, put your hands down, let the other guy hit you. But it was something we were talking about before the show, that Dawson, he comes to not lose. He doesn't come to win. He doesn't come to just take your heart, break your will, and break you down and get you out of there. And Cloud kind of does. He's a guy that will stalk you. He'll take a few shots, but he's going to land his big punches. And I think he's a live dog in that fight. And I think he would make Dawson fight.
He's younger, he's fresher, and he's a better pure puncher, but also the seasoning and also the style. Let's not get this twisted. Chad Dawson is tough to beat.
Yeah.
I also believe, and I've referenced this in the past, guys like Hector Camacho that have so much speed, who look relatively exciting early, are willing to take risks. And every fighter goes through this to a certain degree. When they get hit for that first time really hard, they get rocked, they get dropped, they get hurt.
Yeah.
They can either go two ways. They can either dust themselves off and say, you know what, I can take this. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Other guys are irretrievably broken, and they say, you know what, I'm not getting close to that fire. I'm not going to get burned. We're going to see about Chad Dawson. But I hope to God that HBO realizes, but just because we've already anointed him one of the new generations of stars, you don't just have to automatically keep giving him large license fees time and time again.
Right.
As that old commercial from John Houseman say, you've got to earn it. And again, if he's going to take on some mandatory or some guy that has no shot, you know what? Let Gary Shaw and them promote, but it shouldn't be HBO's welfare check.
Yeah, do it off TV. I don't. You would think that HBO would learn from what they did with Jermaine Taylor, where they just anointed this guy the next guy, and regardless of how the fights looked, regardless of anything that went down, they kept saying this is the guy. And they eventually just kind of abandoned ship and threw him to the wolves. But with Dawson, let's develop this star rather than anointing him a star. Sort of like they do with Andre Berto, who's fought a bunch of stiffs on HBO for huge amounts of money.
He's become more boring and boring.
Yeah, and he's become worse and worse. And he's a guy that, with Louis Collazo, he went through the fire, and we're kind of starting to see the results of that. He's turning into a runner. And you wonder that with Chad Dawson. He had that tough fight with Tomasz Adamek that got him the title in the first place, but he was hurt late, and he had to kind of run for his life to get out of the fight. And I wonder if that's not the moment where he's turned into who he is now.
I'll tell you a guy that's limited, and I think certain styles always trouble him, but when he fights, I want to see him. That's Alfred Angulo, because certain styles are going to trouble him. Anyone that could jab and stick and move off the pocket on him, which I thought Harry Yorgey was going to be able to do to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But as soon as he got caught into that meat grinder early, the one thing I like about Angulo, he has a nice, tight frame on his punches, and there's not a lot of wasted motion.
No.
And once he gets you into those crosshairs, uh-oh.
Yeah. It was ugly. It was like getting caught in that Spartan phalanx, man. He just would not let go. And, I had a lot of problems with this fight. Angulo did what he had to do.
You mean like the referee?
Yeah, that's number one. The referee was garbage. I mean, Johnny Collis, it was almost like he got in there and went, wow, I got great seats for this fight. He just sat there and just watched the thing. He didn't really referee. Angulo drops Yorgey in the second round, takes a pause, hits him in the back of the head while he's on the ground, and then hits him again. The ref did absolutely nothing. A point should have been taken for the shot to the back of the head and for him hitting him on the canvas. You could have easily DQ'd him for that.
Not only there should have been a point, I disagree. There should have been 2 points. I've seen that before. Also, there should have been a 5-minute rest penalty because that's almost worse than a low blow. Harry Joe Yorgey was not helped out, I don't think, by his corner after that second round. I tell Harry Joe Yorgey, you either box and move and stink out the joint and do your best Yuri Borman impersonation, and then let's try to start over in rounds 4 and 5.
Yeah.
But if I see you get in trouble one time, this towel in my hand is getting chucked into that ring.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people let Harry Joe Yorgey down. He's a nice guy. He's got a good story. I hated to see that happen. That was one of the most vicious, brutal knockouts of 2009.
And it really just didn't need to happen. He was throwing punches back, and I guess that's the argument. I can't stop the fight because he's throwing punches back. But he was throwing them back in a manner that said, please stop hitting me. It wasn't like he had a plan.
It was defensive punching.
Yeah, it was reflexive punching almost, because he seemed like he was out on his feet. He was just moving his hands. And it was a bone-chilling knockout. I mean, it was one of the knockouts of the year, and, you know, I'm a violent guy. I enjoy watching it. But it didn't need to happen. It could have been a TKO stoppage.
The thing about Angulo is anyone that wants to stink out the joint and run around the ring. See, I've always said the loss to Cintron, I thought it was a bit fortunate, because that was an elimination bout for the BC 54 title against a guy by the name of Sergio Martinez. I've always contended this guy doesn't even have 15, 16 fights at that point.
Yeah.
Sergio Martinez's style, if they fight 100 times, I think it'd be 100 bad fights, specifically for Angulo.
Yeah.
I would put him in there with guys that want to bang. Guys like James Kirkland down the line when he's a free man. But certain guys like that, Sergio Martinez, Paul Williams, keep them away. It's not a good fight, and you neutralize why we like Petto Angulo at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right now, you know, the WBA elevated the Yorgey fight, you know, with Angulo to the WBO interim title fight. What they should be doing, you know, besides screwing up boxing, is take the guy that actually earned that spot, that earned the #1 contender spot, and rematch him with Angulo. You know, it makes sense. You know, he's the guy that took Angulo's O away. Let's make that fight happen. And then, because while Sergey Janjirik, who's got promotional and legal issues going on, is unable to defend his belt, these guys can fight for the interim belt. That makes sense when you put the interim title.
You're talking about Kermit Cintron.
Yes.
And they also, the big storyline will be from Alfred Angulo, well, I was sick and I had the flu, and Kermit Cintron will say, no, you're not. You didn't have a doctor's notice. So I think there is a little bit of interest there to see what would happen if they're scheduled for another 12 rounds. When we come back on the next round, we wrap it up with news and notes. And we wrap it up here on the next round with Steve, Kim, and Gabe Montoya. We go to news and notes, and we have a new WBA heavyweight titleist. David Haye moves to 23-1 with a 12-round decision over Nikolai Valuev. Your scores 114-114. The other two judges saw it 116-112 for the new WBA heavyweight champion of the world, David Haye. Full disclosure, I have not seen the fight yet, getting the DVD this week. Folks, it's college football season, okay? Now, here's the thing. You saw the fight, and like everyone else, while David Haye won, there's no outbreak of hay fever.
No, not at all. I mean, it was so boring. It made Yuri Foreman look exciting. Actually, what was worse is it made the John Ruiz fight on the undercard look really, really good. But, you know, he did what he had to do. Haye was outmatched by 100 pounds and almost a foot in height. You know, Valuev's got an 85-inch reach. So basically what he did was took the Ruslan Shagayev blueprint and fought a little bit more than Evander Holyfield, who also, you know, followed that blueprint. And kind of split the difference. He stayed on the outside. He avoided clinches. He didn't let Valuev use his weight and his size to clinch and tire him out. He just kind of hunt and pecked his way to victory. You know, now hopefully we move from that fight into something more exciting. You know, we can get past the whole Valuev era and see what David Haye's got at heavyweight.
I'll say this about David Haye. From a personality standpoint, much more marketable than Nikolai Valuev. However, I still think he is an unproven commodity as a heavyweight. Let's put this into perspective. Evander Holyfield may have outboxed Nikolai Valuev. So I want to see the haymaker against a fighter who moves a little bit faster than a glacier. A guy that could pull the trigger, can set stuff up offensively, and can time the oncoming rushes of David Haye. David Haye, to me, his chin, I'm telling you, it's a cruiserweight chin. It wasn't even a great chin at cruiserweight. I want to see him against the world's elite heavyweights in the world. I think he's good for the sport of boxing. I think he brings some excitement. However, you're right. Like Chad Dawson, David Haye, to me, while he won a fight from a big picture perspective of being a ticket seller and a draw and attraction, I think they actually may have lost ground.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really, you know, it was a close fight. I mean, he kind of closed the show. He hurt Valuev late, but he didn't really follow up. And, you know, what do you got to say about Nikolai Valuev? You know, your stocks dropped when you got the lead promoter and you can't get a robbery in Germany. But, you know, I guess, you know, they're just going to kind of probably, you know, keep throwing him out there, and he'll probably fight, you know, some of the retreads, maybe Oleg Moskayev down the line or something. But yeah, with Haye, I think you put him in with David Tua, you put him in with Chris Arreola, or, you know, maybe an Eddie Chambers, and you've got yourself an exciting fight. I think what's cool about him is that he's kind of what's fight?
Thomas Adamek.
Oh, that's a great fight. That's an absolutely great fight. That's
I mean, you're talking about a guy where David Haye is the better athlete, probably quicker, a little bit stronger, maybe the pure purer, better power puncher.
But chinny.
But the steadiness, the toughness, and the way he grinds on you, hey, I'm telling you right now, hey, Adamek in Europe, I don't know if you could find a neutral territory to really have that fight. I think that's the one fight of cruiserweights kind of masquerading as heavyweights.
Yeah.
I would want to. That's be one of the top 5 to 10 fights I'd pay to see right now.
Well, in a sense, I think why we get all the more action out of these smaller guys is they're more traditional sized heavyweights.
Yeah.
We're kind of moving away from the
Power
giants.
forwards.
Yeah, these gigantic 6'7", 6'5" guys. I think it's a good thing that David Haye is taking a title and is staking his claim in the division. And I think that very flaw, the chin, is what's going to make him that much more exciting.
Taking a look at some tidbits as we wrap it up here. A lot of reports that Manny Pacquiao or Miguel Cotto, depending on who wins, could be involved in a stadium fight in 2010. And January 30th, well, it was on the HBO graphic, so it must be true. Shane Mosley, Andre Berto at the Mandalay Bay. Taking a look. You know what? I know Bob is the boy who cried stadium fights. And Macau. I'm excited and intrigued by this. This one, I've gotten some good information, inside people that are kind of working on this. If Manny Pacquiao wins, let's go with that scenario first. I have been told that the Dallas Cowboys organization, led by the man himself, Jerry Jones, is personally going to get involved. HBO loves the idea. Sometime in mid-March, I'm hearing that Juan Manuel Marquez is the lead, perhaps land that fight. Also, Julio Cesar Chavez against John Duddy, that long-awaited step-up fight that you've been talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I really believe if you price it the right way, and if Manny Pacquiao looks spectacular against Miguel Cotto, which we're going to see in 6 or 7 days, one way or the other, I think if you price it the right way, because Texas has a history of having big crowds. 48,000 for De La Hoya against Patrick Charpentier, over 63,000 for Pernell Whitaker against Chavez at the Alamo Dome. I think boxing needs events like this. This will draw the general interest.
I would totally agree. I mean, you got to take it back to the people, like we said. And Texas has got a huge fight fan base. Why not put it there? Maybe you could bring it to Los Angeles, but I think you need to spread it around the country. You need to
Well, I've said this for years. One of the reasons why boxing has lost interest, the major metropolitan cities have had the big fights ripped from them, and everything is put into Atlantic City
or Vegas. And
to a certain degree, maybe New York or LA. You put it in the middle. I think boxing has lost the flyover states.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
really have. It's either East Coast or West Coast, or very Latin, and then Europe. But we've completely lost Middle America, all the red states. Texas, to me, is a very, very underrated fight town. If you look at the success of Juan Diaz, Rocky Wars is even a ticket seller. And they do have a local promoter there. I think that would be great. If Miguel Cotto should win, Bob Arum has talked very, very extensively about bringing a fight with Miguel Cotto to Yankee Stadium. And I think there's 2 possibilities you can do there. I think you can do Kermit Citron, the Puerto Rican battle. And I know people are going to hate to hear this. Antonio Margarito gets his license back. I think Margarito, based on what's happened, would have no choice but to go right into the lion's den of the Bronx Zoo and Yankee Stadium to fight Cotto. I think both guys at the stadium, if the fights are priced correctly, and when you have 60,000 seats with no casino, I don't think there's any doubt you can do a very, very substantial crowd.
Yeah, and again, New York has a huge fight history. Those people would come out for that fight, and they've shown time and again that they love Cotto in New York.
Shane Mosley, Andre Berto, I guess, is finally done. I guess the press conference will be this Saturday morning.
The Twitter war is over.
Yeah, I hope the fight is as good as the tweets. That's all I can say.
I'm taking Shane. I like Shane late. I think he's going to outbox him a little bit. I think maybe the speed differential will be a problem, but Berto tends to slow down a little bit as the fight goes on, and at some point he's going to have to stand and trade with the old Lion. I think the old Lion's got one left in him.
A couple of things. Shane Mosley, whiskers, better. I think referee is going to be key, and I've said this before. This is not the MMA. I want Keith Hughes, the guy that did the Collazo-Berto fight. I want him as the referee. I want a guy that's going to say, clinch, okay, that's first warning. Second time, you get a point taken away. I want a real fight. Because let's face it, Andre Berto against Urango, that was borderline disgraceful. And Shane Mosley is a little bit of a clincher himself on the inside because he's so strong, he can lock a guy up. I want to see punches thrown. So I think the refereeing in this fight is going to determine, to a large degree, just how entertaining this fight really is going to be.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's always kind of the landscape, that you got to set with, and it kind of begins with the referee. That's why we got like Kenny Bayless, this weekend.
Very good referee.
I'm really excited that he's doing it. It's my personal favorite ref. Him and Steve Smoger are kind of 1A, 1B right there. And it's going to make for a good fight. And if Miguel Cotto decides to go low, Kenny is going to be all over it.
All right, well that's it for this week's edition of The Next Round. On behalf of Gabriel Montoya and the rest of Max Boxing, till the next round. Goodbye, everybody.